Hey everyone, Cursed Deck Builder here, making our way to 10,000 decks, and we have a Marneus Calgar Aristocrats deck. This deck was sent to me by Healthy Mind, who says they're very happy with how it's working so far, but they are open to new perspectives. They haven't actually asked anyone else for their thoughts on it. Well, thank you for letting me be the first one. They also say that this used to be a token deck, and now it's turning into an Aristocrats deck. And I would say this deck very much feels that way. It does seem to be in the transition point between two different decks. So as always, the deck list is within the video description below. I highly recommend you open it up, take a look with me at the same time, see what you would change, what you wouldn't change, see if we agree, and if you find anything I miss, go ahead and put it in the comments below. So Marneus Calgar. Who is Marneus and what do they do? Marneus is Esper 5 mana 3/5 with double strike and says whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield, draw a card. And for 6 mana, you get 2/2/2s with vigilance. This is interesting. This is very clearly was built around the second ability where whenever you play a token or any number of tokens, you draw one card. I think that is quite a powerful effect. So let's go down and look at our curve. How is our curve? Pretty nice. It's a bit high in the 2, but otherwise it is a shape I really do enjoy. And I imagine a high part of those 2s, which I wonder if we can see, no, are going to be mana rocks. And I like that. I like this setup. So let's take a look at the deck itself. Now, our deck builder left a bit of a description that has some interesting information here based on a few things that they particularly like they like their planeswalkers, and that they've been traveling around with the deck and they have souvenir cards that they would not like to cut. This is Farewell, Swords to Plowshares, Cruel Celebrant, Monastery Mentor. I'm very happy to not make those cuts. We will talk again about the planeswalkers. So, what do we think here? Well, let's look at the first thing that comes to mind. And that's it. That's that we're transitioning a deck from one strategy to another. So when we do that, we want to make sure the strategy we're going into is going to be supported as needed. Now, Aristocrats is a strategy that comes up a lot here. I would consider it to be Black's premier strategy, that it does better than any other color, and that is very accessible and can fit into a lot of strategies. So let's remember what Aristocrats is. Aristocrats is 3 parts. One, you need a Blood Artist effect. A Blood Artist effect is something like Conrad the Grim or Cruel Celebrant, where it is a creature or an ability that says, when a creature dies, X happens. These are the meat of this combo. The more of these you can get, the more damage you're going to do, the more positive effects that you're going to get, and the more triggers you'll see. The second part of it is we need a sacrificer, or a card that will destroy them, such as Skull Clamp, or down here we have Ashnod's Altar. These cards are very important because they allow us to not depend on our opponent's interaction or attacking or board clears in order to destroy our own creatures to get our aristocrat effects. And finally, our third thing that we need are creatures to sacrifice or creatures to die. Now, thankfully, as a token deck, that is the lowest on the scale. We have tons and tons of those, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm actually a little more interested in the other 2 columns, let's say. Now, what's come to mind is of all the Blood Artist effects you are not playing Blood Artist itself. Blood Artist is kind of the weaker Blood Artist effect. And I don't particularly think, because it targets one opponent as opposed to all of them. And unfortunately, that's less strong in a 4-player game. But I don't think we shouldn't play it. I think you could definitely play Blood Artist with very little downside. And let's see if there's another one that comes to mind. The problem is a lot of A lot of the good ones care about non-tokens, so we lose a little bit of our strength here. We can't play Midnight Reaper. I'm trying to think of the other ones that we could play. Let's go to Scryfall and find if I've quickly missed anyone. So let's go whenever a creature dies. We're an Esper. Let's take a quick look. Switch to buy mana value. And so at a glance, you already have the Cruel Celebrant. Daxos is not where we want to be. You have that. Do we have Transmorgant's Crown? We don't. I like Transmorgant's Crown for card draw, but you are pretty set for card draw, so I'm happy to just keep moving. See, you already have Bastion of Remembrance. Dark Prophecy is a bit hard on your side because it's 3 black. And I think that's the majority here. At 4 mana, we have a few more. We have probably just lower in the alphabet. Falconwrath Noble, and we have one more Vindictive Vampire, I believe it is. Vindictive Vampire. Now, I don't believe you're playing those. Yes, so if you wanted to go up in Aristocrat numbers, that is a direction you can go. Nadir's Nightblade is really nice here because it selectively hits tokens, so you get to play an additional one. Very, very nice. I generally feel like you can play as many as you'd like because they just get better in multiples. Then when it comes to sacrifice outlets, I feel like you are playing Soul Ring, you are playing Ashnod's Altar, and that's really what I'm seeing here. Taking the peek around, there's not a lot of other sacrifice effects. And so I feel like it wouldn't hurt for you to play my two favorite. There we go. Viscera, Saraseer, which sacrifices an instant speed, and Carrion Feeder, which I've remembered their name this time. Very happy to do so. Carrion Feeder and Viscera both cost 1 black mana, and they will sacrifice at instant speed. That's generally what you want. It allows you to do something during targeted removal at your aristocrats, or board clears that would selectively remove your aristocrats, so you can still get your triggers. It also lets you consistently get the triggers repeatedly. So I would really like that here. Otherwise, the aristocrat strategy is very, very strong here. Something that if you wanted to add to it would be, let's just start with Unearth. Would be like, if I spell it, Unearth effects, which are just reanimation effects that cost low mana. So Unearth, Persist, Reanimation, and Animate Dead are the kinds of cards that you can play here. And they're generally pretty good at getting one of your aristocrats back, which I think is not a bad bet because you're low on creatures in the sense that all your creatures are kind of essential to your game plan. And so I think it would be good to be able to buy back 1 or 2 here or there. All right, after that, the next thing I kind of want to think about is our ramp. We're in 3 colors and not green. So I want to look at that you're playing every card you can. And I've noticed you're not playing 2 of the signets you could be playing. You could be playing Dimir Signet and Azorius Signet, which are our other 2 signets here. Can't hurt. It really, really can't hurt. I consider them stronger cards to Commander Sphere down here. And you are in 3 colors with a 5 mana commander, and you have some higher mana cost cards that I would not mind having a few more mana rocks for. It's up to you if you want to just add them or you want to take out a command sphere and something else for them. But even Mind Stone can be replaced. I don't think card draw is really much of a problem here. So the fact that it doesn't tap for one of your 3 colors is kind of a big downside. So I wouldn't mind going up in mana cost a little bit. Sorry, mana rocks. I was distracted by Revel in Riches. Revel in Riches feels kind of cute here. I understand that they are tokens, and I don't think your commander specifies creature tokens, so you will draw a card every time Revel in Riches triggers. But that's a lot of hoops. That's 5 mana for this trigger, whereas you already have effects like Bitter Blossom and Squirrel's Hide that trigger once a turn pretty cleanly at 2 mana. You have one more that I'm going to suggest in a second, um, which I actually will show right now. Is it Jedar? Trying to remember this. Jadar? Jadar. Jadar is another one of these kind of effects where you get a 2/2 creature token every one of your end steps. So it would just be another copy of Bitter Blossom, Squirrel's Hive style cards. It has the benefit that once it attacks, it dies at the end of the turn, anyways. You don't even need a sacrifice outlet. Pretty nice. So with that in mind, Revel in Riches is a bit high in mana, and I don't think it does anything you really want it to do. I think there's like the synergy of playing Revel in Riches and then having a board clear and that being particularly strong. Um, so yeah, I don't love this here. Then coming up to here, I see Thallus. This is definitely the kind of deck that Thallus is very good in because you can take advantage because you're creating a lot of tokens for free. I just see her and I see the 5 mana and it makes me kind of unsure. But all in all, I'd be happy just leaving her in here. Now I have to talk about the planeswalkers. I know you like planeswalkers, but both Elspeth Knight Errant and the Eternal Wanderer both kind of stick out a little bit as being the weaker of the group. Sun's Champion is really great as a board clear. Tevesh Sat both creates creatures and draws you cards. Sorin Lord of Innistrad's Emblem is another way to finish the game. I like all of those. Esper's Knight Errant is a 4 mana only creating a creature, and its buff ability isn't very relevant in Commander. She takes a long time to ultimate. I don't particularly like her here. The Eternal Wanderer, um, likewise, she has the clause that only one creature can attack her per combat. One that's not as good as it sounds in Commander. In one-on-one, it implies that she can only get attacked once per turn cycle by one creature, whereas here she's still, if your opponents want her gone, they can still just attack 3 times. And considering you have an army of tokens to block, I don't think it's really relevant either way. So that really does read like flavor text. So she either blinks something, which isn't very good in a token deck. She creates a 2/2, which is fine. And then her ultimate is a board clear that selectively keeps one creature alive, which also feels like the antithesis of what you want in a token deck. It's good to have board clears, but I think on a Planeswalker, Elspeth Sun Champion just does it better because you generally want to keep your aristocrat effects, all of which are weaker creatures. So with that in mind, I don't like Eternal Wanderer either. I would also consider cutting her. Finally, I'm going to point out a few cards that I believe kind of stand out to me as strange inclusions. So let's take a look. Coming here, Rotting Reunion and where are you? Resculpt in our instant pile are very confusing to me. I like the large collection of instants because once you have token producers that produce on their own, you can hold up mana. I think that's good. But Resculpt feels weird because you're in white. Is there a reason you're playing this over Path to Exile? Oh, you are playing Path to Exile, sorry. But is there a reason you're playing it before any other white exile spell, which we can get for 2 mana, I believe? Um, I forget what it is. It's like missing or something. So destroy. I know this is an exile to destroy clue. In white, we have destroy, investigate, probably. Fateful Absence is really clean at 2 mana for that effect. It doesn't exile, but I just feel like Resculpt, when you have access to white, Resculpt feels a bit strange as an inclusion. You have a lot of removal here. I'm wondering what is causing you to consider to also play Resculpt. what was the other one? Rotten Reunion also feels a little strange. I get that it is creates a token, but I want you to read that as one black mana, exile a card from a graveyard, draw a card with flashback. And I don't think that's as good as it sounds. I think even with your commander, that's not very good. Um, no, I don't particularly love it. I would cut it if I could. And if you want that effect, Jadar has already been mentioned. So Rotten Marine kind of sticks out. You're playing Torpor Orb. I think honestly, I would rather. There's a number of creatures, battlefield, and then exile graveyard. I think I would rather cards like Agent of Erebos, that's one player. Angel of Finality, that's one player. There is Author of Shadows, I really like. That's all players for 5 mana, and then you get one of the cards. I like those a little more because they stay on the board. Bojuka Bog, if you're not playing it, there's your lands. There we go. Yes, I would honestly just play Bojuka Bog over Tormod's Crypt because it's just clean. It's just cleaner. You're in the colors. It's a land. You get to. It sometimes sucks to have it turn one, but it'll answer do the same thing without being down a card permanently. Now you can't hold it up as you would Tormod's Crypt, but I don't particularly mind that. I think that's fine. Looking at other things that stick out to me, I feel like Alayla is a remnant of an earlier version of the deck. You are playing too few enchantments and artifacts for me to really want to play her. You are a fifth of your deck. 1 in 5 cards will trigger her. Whereas in a deck that she's in, you want to trigger her constantly. I like that she gives your flying creatures +1/++1/+0. But even then, I think it's just weak. I think I would rather the new card from Lord of the Rings that is, let's see, white black to create uh, shadow summoning. That's just create 2 mana, create two tapped 1/1 white. Like it's a 2 mana draw to create 2/1/1s, and like even then, thinking about it, is that much different than is that different from Rotting Reunion? Maybe it is because it'll draw you both of it immediately, and you have the flying attackers. I don't know. Either way, I think Alayla sticks out a little bit as a weaker inclusion, whereas Monastery Mentor seems like a great inclusion because once we add our instants and sorceries, which, yeah, we're low on sorceries, but we have another 21 cards to add, Monastery Mentor starts looking a lot nicer for the amount of times you can trigger it. So I'm fine with Monastery Mentor. What is Ethereal Investigator? When it attacks, investigate X times, or it's the number of opponents you have. Then you draw your second card. Okay, yeah, that's real cute. I do really like that. That's perfect. Okay. All right. With that in mind, that's most of the stuff that kind of jumps out at me. Looking at the maybe board, these are fine. I don't particularly think you need to play any of these personally. Uh, Lotho's gonna be interesting. Lotho is a card that I'm looking at for my white black decks for just another way to make mana, but outside of that, this doesn't. Lotho is just better because you don't care if it's a creature or not, and having the treasure is very useful in a deck with a higher curve, without green, with lower ramp. Yeah, I think this is a solid deck. I love the fact that you're traveling with this deck. I think that's really really cool. I love that kind of story that comes along with the deck. So I think the things I've said, I hope they help because I think there's just direct changes that the deck needs and not an overhaul in any means. I think in its transitory period where it's going from being one deck to another, there's always going to be a few bumps, but overall the deck feels very strong. It feels very much on theme, and I really do like that you're transitioning one deck to another with strategies that are inherently compatible. It's not like you're going from, I don't know, the discard to aristocrats. You're going from something that the deck wants to do to something the deck also wants to do, and the power of it is very visible. Let me read this Tyrant as my last thing. Whenever an attacking creature controls, blocking controls dies, create a 2/2. Okay, so it just basically doubles your attackers. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not gonna be too mad about that. If you have enough attackers, that is really cool. Okay, that's fine with me. I like this deck, and I think you're off to a good direction. As always, if you have a new draft of this deck or have another deck you'd like me to see, please go ahead and fill out the form that's in the YouTube video description below. And if you could like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube thing, I'd be very grateful. We are a new channel, and it is always hard to get a channel off the ground, and I really appreciate the help. This is a great deck. It's the kind of deck I would build, so I already love it, and I would love to see another draft of it. Good luck.